Hey, welcome everybody back to a Galthim Does Repair. This second installment of it is also going to be a two-parter because I'm going to first work on this laptop that I've had for quite a while. It's given to me from a friend. Its M.2 drive likes to slip out of the slot every so often as it gets jostled around, and it's a laptop, so it's going to get jostled around. And so I'm going to take it apart, and I'm going to get that M.2 back in there and maybe put a screw in if I can find one. If not, I'm going to have to find some other solution. And then I'm going to use it to add some OBS Studio software, and I'm going to record something else. The Workbench computer is old. It's a Q6700 with 4 gigs of RAM, and has that 660 GTX NVIDIA card there. But I'm going to go ahead and upgrade that to a Xeon and give it a nice 16 gigs of RAM and brand new motherboard. The whole works. It's going to go from an 1155 board to an 1150 board, and it's just going to be that much better. So let's go ahead and start this so I can get both of those done. I'm going to do a quick flash forward here on these. It takes a T5 Starbit to take all of these off. They did a little special thing there. As you can see, that sticker says Windows 8, and so it just takes me a minute to get this bottom cover off. The whole cover comes off, and then we can get looking at what's going on in there. I actually thought it was going to be much dirtier in here than I thought, because it looks like it would always suck up dust and just kind of trap it in there, but it was actually pretty clean aside from those fans, which I mean, they run pretty much maximum the whole time because the whole thing is just so solid, and it has like the video cards and stuff in there, and it generates a lot of heat. As you can tell, right there is where the the M.2 is. I was having trouble finding it because it was under that ribbon cable, but yeah, I eventually found it after I spun everything around. It just kind of came to me again. But you have to understand, it's been like a year since I've been inside this thing. So again, I was having trouble finding that, and then I picked it up and I spun it around, and suddenly it all became clear. It was like, oh, it's right there. Hey, you know, it was right under that ribbon cable the whole time. And I'm going to point it out here. Right there, it was just slipped out of that little casing because there's no screw holding it back. So all I got to do is pop off the display port here, and then which I can't grab the flap, so I figured I'd get a little thing under it. Just move it out of the way a little bit, and then this one is one of those flip up things, and then it pulls the ribbon cable straight out. I really am not trying to do too much with it because I don't want to break it. Those are really difficult and they will break easily. So we just pop it off there, make sure everything's fine, and then I just kind of get under it, but I don't want to like put too much pressure on the ribbon cable itself. So and then I just grab that grab the SD card out, and notice there's that pad underneath. It's kind of a sticky pad, and it's really made for more like heat than anything else. It doesn't really keep it from slipping out. And so now that I have this out, I'm going to go ahead and reseat it here. And then I'm going to find myself a nice little screw to hold this thing in. I've got an assortment of screws that are on the wall, but you know, this is actually made by Lite-On, and it is a 256 gigabyte, really tiny M.2 there. And, you know, I could upgrade it. I might upgrade it one day, but for right now, for the purposes of what I'm doing, this is going to be a great item. And I'm just going to go in and I'm going to erase a few things. I'm going to put OBS Studio on, and I'm going to make sure it can handle enough video that we're not going to have to worry about it. I'll go ahead and lift this up here and get it back in there in just a minute, and then we'll get it figured out. I found out that this board possibly is called the Betty. There's a sticker called the Betty on the battery, but also it says Betty 3 on that green sticker right next to the M.2. So it's kind of a strange thing that was happening there. So, all right, got that in there. Everything's fine. gonna see how easily it is to find myself a screw here. So I have boxes. There's this stuff all over the place. I could just look around. Unfortunately, I didn't find a screw. So instead, I was looking around. Maybe I could steal a chassis screw or something, and it just, eventually I was going, but then I was like, oh, that doesn't feel right. Maybe I'll do something else. And lo and behold, I went for the electrical tape instead. Right behind my monitor. Went ahead and grabbed it. And just before I started recording, I moved it over there. So I got the sticker in there, and then here I am putting the cover right back on, and then I'm going to go through a fast forward a little bit just to get the screws in there, and everything will be happy. Then we're going to test it out. All right, so I went ahead and got this thing plugged in, and starting it up now. Trying to protect the names of everything here, so not trying to get the screen shot on there while I'm trying to log in, of course. And definitely protecting my password from everything. But here's the screen now, and has my usual icons on it. But here's the battle.net. Oops. But we're going to go ahead and get into Google and get OBS Studio on this thing. So, yeah. If you were to hear the actual volume from what was going on, you hear the fans ramp up on this thing. The one big problem it has is heat distribution. And unfortunately, it just kicks it up to 100% almost instantly when you're trying to do anything. I think it's by design, but, it being like a small compact gaming computer, but unfortunately it just keeps doing it. So yeah, it's just a crazy thing. But we're going to go ahead and get this set up with OBS Studio, and then I'm going to start recording from the laptop and pull a little switcheroo on the Q6700. So before I do that little switcheroo and get that stuff rolling here, I'm going to go ahead and bring my new motherboard out, new to me. It's a used motherboard. And I'm going to go ahead and get that set up before I do anything else, so I can just make it a quick switch out and not have to worry about it. I'm recording now, still on the tried and true desk workstation. So this is the new board. It's a little smaller than the previous board, but it's a little newer. As you can tell, it's not flat. It's seen a lot of action, and it's not just because of that metal backing. It literally is a warped board. But hey, it works. I'm still going to use it. I'm going to go ahead and get that Xeon processor in here as soon as I possibly can, and then get it started. So first I'm going to switch the camera so you guys can see it from the top view. Looks good, right? It's an MSI board, so, it's like I said, it's a small little replacement. It's going to be great. It's going to work with 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it's going to work with that Xeon processor. It is an 1150 board. So, I'm just going to go ahead and lift this up. I'm going to get this processor in there because I've been holding on to this processor for a while. What I was doing is I had actually ordered a processor that I thought was going to fit in the 1155 board that I already had. But unfortunately, when it came in, I did not have the right board. And it became very obvious. I opened up the processor and I looked at it and I go, oh, definitely not the same size. That is craziness. And so I was like, well, you know what? This is a good processor. Let's buy a good board to go with it. So I bought the board. The board was cheap, by the way. It was extremely cheap. This whole build is like a $40 budget build, including the RAM. So, we're going to build it together here. And that is a Xeon processor that is like a 1220 or something like that. It's not a great processor, but it's not a bad processor. It's leaps and bounds better than the Q6700 that's in there. So I'm really just planning on this being a workhorse at this point. I'm just going to put that in here, and then everything should be happy. One of the things is, while I'm putting it in here, I realized I don't know where my thermal paste is. And you would think it would be right here at the workbench, but it never made it there. I bought some, I opened it in the living room, and I was like, oh yeah, hey, look, thermal paste. And then I was watching a movie with my partner, and now I don't know where that paste is. It was in the living room. It should be easy to find, but it's not. And we have you know, things that go on here because there's multiple people that live here that you know, sometimes things get misplaced. We mean well putting them in the place, but you know, it goes away sometimes. So I'm going to get this in here, and then lo and behold, update, I had some other thermal paste, and I was able to put it in here in the next step. So as you can see, I went ahead and put that fan on here, and I just kept on going with this because, hey, why not? Fan's working, fan snaps in real good. It's about to anyway. I have USB 3 ports, some extra USBs. So this is really a big upgrade for me for you know, my bench system here. And I think it was just time. It's not that expensive. It was pretty fun to build. I'm using a lot of the parts from the old one, and the old one's probably just going to be reinvented as something else. But right now, I'm pushing these down. I'm going to get these all snapped into place. This board has already been warped once, and so when these went down, they went down really easy. Now I do the cross thing here, so I push down one side, and then I go to the exact opposite side, and then I go, you know, across and then down again at an angle. I only want to point those in, add that crisscross things, kind of like to even out the pressure on the die a little bit. Not that it's going to matter on this particular board, because this particular board was actually pretty bent as it was, so it was really easy to go in, like it was made ready for this to snap in. So yeah, I have the rest of it here. The as you can see, the Vengeance DDR3 there, and you know, it's 16 gigs. I have actual 32 gigs of it lying around, but I never had a board that could use it. I had another board that was running my 4770 and had a nice thing going on, but the clock speed on this RAM was a little off for it, so it didn't work quite right. And so I was storing it, basically holding on to it, but I got it for the right price. It was free, of course. Sometimes people just give you things, at least, you know, people that I know give me things, but they're older things, right? So they're not things they can use anymore. So it just kind of secondhand comes to me. And that's really great because I love building secondhand computers, older computers, because they're still viable. A lot of the computers that we've been going through for the last 10 years are still very viable right now. And yeah, by the grace of our makers or whatever, I am a person that has a relatively new computer comparatively. And so, yeah, I mean, here's what it looks like when I bring the old Q67 up. Here it is, right on the bench, and we're going to crack it open. And remember, this Q67 is actually a 4 gigabyte system with a, you know, old Core 2 processor in it. It's Core 2 Duo, and it has the GTX 660 video card in it. So that's really what's the main driver, that GPU. And so here I'm going to crack it open, and you can't really see it in here, but you get to see that piping, that beautiful copper piping for that 6600. Oh man, they don't always make them that pretty anymore, but you know, get a little light in here so you can see the Asus board. If you guys know exactly how to say that and why it's pronounced that way, please let me know in the comments. Yeah, because you could do enunciation in the comments. Anyway, here's the board. It's older, like I said. My SATA drives are still, or SATA if you so choose. SATA drives are still viable. Yes, there is a DVD-ROM drive in there that I do not use. I just use it to cover the hole because I lost the piece there. And so, yeah, this is still a viable board. Again, you know, the P5G4 1T-MLX plus, because it didn't have enough acronyms on it. That's actually going to be, you know, relegated to something else. I'm going to build another system with it eventually. It's probably going to be inside of a cabinet or something. Then, you know, maybe play some emulators or something like that. I don't know. But we are definitely going to, you know, figure something out for it. These, this teardown here is just a little bit, you know, we're gonna have to take it apart a little bit at a time because this case is kind of small. And now I'm working with some small materials here, but I have to tuck some stuff inside for the cable management, not because of prettiness for cable management, because you don't get to see inside the case. No, the cable management was just so that the GTX 660 here didn't get caught up in the wires and the fans start going. Nah. So yeah, it was definitely a different story there. My previous build, I did use a Dell proprietary board, and when I did, I took the plastic coverings off of the power plus and power minus switch, and so that was a mistake whenever I had to build something else because I didn't keep those, and so now they're just dangling in here. That'll come to bite me later whenever I'm trying to make sure that everything's connecting correctly in the Xeon processor thing here. But right now I'm just taking it apart. And yeah, guess what? I'm taking it apart and letting it stand instead of putting it on the side and going after it. And I don't care that I'm doing it this way because it came out really easy for me, as you can see, and everything's great with it. And you know, it's just 100%. So notice the next thing that happens here is that blue drive just seems to disappear out of nowhere, and now I'm putting this wonderful 3 terabyte green drive in. Now this is a very slow but archival drive. It's going to work just fine for me. I do have extra backups, but this is from my server, and the server has a problem where it has like a 1200 watt power supply, and if it runs constantly, and it does at full speed, it makes a heck of a power bill. So my solution to that is to go ahead and put it into this smaller system here and not worry about it as much, and we're just gonna have all my stuff there, and it's going to have a big chunk of it devoted to putting the video backups together, right? So here I am. I'm just going to put this all back together now, make sure everything is right, and you know, we're going to run it. But as you can see, there is the board in there now. My new board is in there. It has the back plate on there. Everything's running fine. I'm putting this new hard drive in, and then we're going to go ahead and get the video card in and try to test it here. So we're just putting it together now. I'm going to go ahead and cut to the testing part. This is as close as I can get to the screen, and I'm using the fisheye camera once again. And it doesn't seem too much whenever it's further back, but when it's really close, it's terrible. Now, I wasn't given the password for this, and I'm trying to get into the BIOS, but apparently I didn't need to get into the BIOS at all. When I plugged everything in, it just kind of did it for me. And I just didn't care at that point. So I restart it here, and everything will go great. I'll look up later if there's a way to crack the MSI military class for code, maybe clearing the CMOS or something like that to get rid of it. So I turned it off. I'm going to turn it back on. Those values are just in and everything's happy. It'll come up here in a second and show you, yeah, it's just the MSI military class 4 goes to the normal checks here and then starts going into Windows. Now the camera's a little too close and I'm sorry about that. It's fisheyed, so everything's weird. But, you know, I try to adjust it a little bit, but it's not going to help. It's just basically going to look like that the whole time. And of course, it wants to start getting Windows ready, quote unquote. So it doesn't even have any of that going on for it. If in a second I'll pull down the camera and you'll actually get to see it say those words at the bottom. And then it's really funny to me. Getting devices ready, 33%, right in time for it to disappear. I did actually name the computer Workbench. That is my deal. It is for the Workbench, so that's what happens. It gets really bright here, and I can't fix the camera angles, but I'm gonna have to get a better quality camera that actually does things correctly. These are some cheaper webcams that are you know, easily found on the internets, and so as I work through it, my photography will get a little better here. This is only my second actual video. Other than that, it's always been video capture for the video games. So hopefully I will hone my skills here on that just a little bit better. But I do check a few things out. It looks like everything is running perfectly and smoothly with all the apps in there and everything. And so I no longer have to worry about that. Everything seems to pop up perfectly. And so all I really have to do at this point is, you know, get it hooked up to the bench and we'll be all right. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'm going to get this hooked up so I can move on to my next project. If you made it this far, please consider going ahead and hitting that like button. Maybe even subscribing to the channel so you can see future videos and maybe even backtrack on the older ones. And you know what? Share this with your friends, family, and coworkers, and anybody who likes computer stuff. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.